What if I told you that the next 2026 Ferrari will no longer be 100% Ferrari? What would happen if I reveal that Lewis Hamilton is embedding his DNA into the new Scuderia car, completely transforming his historical philosophy? What is happening in Maranello is not just an evolution, it is a revolution. The concept of Hamilton DNA, in the context of the future Ferrari of 2026, is not a simple metaphor, it is a declaration of technical and philosophical intentions. Lewis Hamilton has not arrived in Maranello just to pilot a car designed by others. It has arrived with a clear vision of what a car should be, how to behave on the track, and, above all, how to respond to the needs of a pilot who has won 7 world championships in various ages. Since his first meetings with engineers in Firen, Hamilton has not limited himself to pointing out deficiencies of the SF25, but has demanded structural changes and has proposed development routes for the 2026 car. This approach has shaken the foundations of a historically jealous team of its technical identity. Ferrari, as an institution, has been building cars with a very particular seal. Aggressive chassis, nervous responses, unstable braking, and a predilection for fast curve survival. It is a DNA that favors instinctive pilots, but historically has been inconsistent in technical circuits or with variable conditions. Hamilton, however, comes from a completely different technical culture. That of Mercedes, where stability, predictability, and long career efficiency have been the keys to success. And that is precisely what he wants to take Ferrari. In his own words, he looks for a car that speaks to the pilot, to be predictable without being docile, fast without being treacherous. Loic Serra, the new technical director of Ferrari and former Mercedes performance chief, has been a key figure in this transition. Their relationship with Hamilton is deep. They shared successes in the hybrid era and share a common vision of how a champion car should behave. Since his arrival in Maranello, Serra has started a restructuring of simulation programs, has modified priorities in the wind tunnel, and has begun to redraw the design parameters of the chassis for the 2026 car. All this with the idea of translating Hamilton's sensory experience into data, and those data in specific geometries and materials. One of the most innovative elements in this process is the redefinition of the suspension system, not only for the current SF25 but as an experimental basis for the 2026 car. Sudden accelerations. This suspension was conceived to eliminate the erratic behavior that Hamilton criticized so much in the first GP of the year, where it came to say that the car seemed to have own life in rapid curves. In addition to the mechanical part, Hamilton's DNA is also inserting in the operational processes of the equipment. From the post-career briefings to the way in which simulator batches are structured, the influence of the British has been noticed. He has requested changes in the way in which the data is collected and prioritized, demanding that the pilot's feedback have more weight in development than aerodynamic correlation algorithms. According to internal sources, he has even pressed to reconfigure the simulation protocols in Maranello so that they adjust more to Brackley standards. These types of influences are not normally seen as soon. But Hamilton hasn't lost time. He knows that 2025 is a year of transition, and that everything that manages to implement now will be the basis of what Ferrari will present in 2026, when the regulations change and open a new technical era. That is why it is not formed to compete. Lewis Hamilton's adaptation process to Ferrari in 2025 has not been immediate or painless. Although the external narrative has been dominated by its media arrival and the promise of technical revolution, the truth is that within the garage of Maranello there have been silent tensions, forced adjustments, and progressive frustrations. This second act of the Hamilton season is marked by an intimate and deep struggle between its identity as a pilot and the technical personality of the SF25, a car that was not conceived for its driving style. The most revealing was his decision to progressively migrate to the pilot style of Charles Leclerc. This gesture, far from being anecdotal, exposes the magnitude of the challenge. Leclerc, who has been developing and refining the technical language of Ferrari for years, has a style that maximizes the minimum curve speed, using a very precise combination of accelerator release and early brake application to stabilize the rear of the car. Hamilton, on the contrary, has always been more fluid, with a more linear transition between acceleration and braking, prioritizing the traction at the exit over aggressive entry. That difference in styles made, during the first Great Awards, the British simply could not find consistency or trust. Hamilton openly admitted it. He tested all possible directions to adapt the car to his style, but none worked. It is a heavy statement coming from one of the most complete and technical pilots in history. This revealed not only a base incompatibility between car and pilot, but also a limitation in the flexibility of SF25, which seems to have been designed with a very defined technical mold, difficult to deform. And yet, instead of insisting on forcing the car to him, Hamilton decided to go to the car. An act of humility that is not common in champions of his caliber, but that says much of his commitment to the Ferrari project. This technical strip and loosen also has human implications. It is no accident that, while Hamilton adjusts his style and sacrifices performance immediately, Leclerc accumulates podiums and strengthens his position within the team. This difference in results can reinforce the internal narrative that the car is better with Charles, which generates subtle tensions in decision-making on updates, development priorities, and general direction. For a pilot like Hamilton, accustomed to being the reference point within his team, this is an unexplored land where he must rebuild his technical authority from scratch. Can Hamilton continue to adjust to Ferrari's technical mold without losing his essence as a pilot? Or will it be necessary for the car itself to become something hybrid, where both philosophies can live? These doubts still have no answer, but what is certain is that Hamilton's integration process is deeply marking the character of the team. Beyond the results on the track, what is being played here is an ideological battle between two ways of understanding speed. Loic Serra, a fundamental piece in this transition, has adopted a work methodology that breaks with Maranello's tradition. Instead of first developing a closed technical concept and then asking for feedback from the pilots, it has done exactly the opposite. The 2026 car development began with a series of intensive simulator sessions with Hamilton and Leclerc, in which the sensory priorities of the new chassis were defined. How should the car feel stopping strong from 320 km per hour? How should it react when the pilot loses adherence in the back? What kind of direction transmits greater confidence in high-speed curves? These questions have guided technical decisions from day one. The result is a project that, although still in conceptual phase, has already begun to leak in the updates of the SF25. The rear suspension tested in Mugello before the Belgium GP is not an isolated solution, but a first experimental module of the 2026 car. Ferrari is using the last races of the 2025 season as a test bank in real conditions. Each kilometer that Hamilton and Leclerc complete with this hybrid configuration is a data source that features the future design. It is a bold but logical strategy. Minimize the uncertainties of the new generation car, validating its royal track principles, long before the first chassis of 676, internal name of the new model. In parallel, Ferrari has reorganized its aerodynamic department. The work with stable flows and medium load profiles has been prioritized, partially abandoning its historic commitment to extreme configurations that offered high downforce at a balance of equilibrium. Hamilton has been explicit in rejecting those philosophies. He prefers a platform that is less dominant in classification but unbeatable in career rhythm. This has led engineers to review their approach to the rake of the car, the distribution of weights, and the structural rigidity of the monitor. In essence, Ferrari is no longer thinking in terms of fast car, to start thinking in terms of champion car. This change of mentality is also reflected in the interaction with technical suppliers. For the first time since the era of Michael Schumacher, Ferrari has opened its doors to external collaborations with vehicle dynamics out of the Italian ecosystem. There has been even a collaboration with companies linked to German automotive for the development of more precise sensors in the interpretation of rear axle behavior under load. This unprecedented doors for such a jealous house of your identity is one more proof that we are facing a deep transformation. This 2026 project is more than a machine. It is a technical manifesto, a philosophical statement, and a long-term strategic commitment. It's not just about competing. Ferrari wants to dominate. But to do it, he must dare to leave behind what it was and embrace what can be. But this is where everything becomes really interesting. So far, we have talked about Hamilton's DNA as a positive influence, as a transformative vision. However, who guarantees that this transformation does not generate internal resistance? What if the 2026 car ends up being an intermediate machine, which does not end up adapting either Ferrari's historical style or Hamilton's? In the past, we already saw great projects collapse for trying to mix opposite philosophies. The clearest example was the McLaren Honda of 2015, a structure that promised technological fusion, but ended up being a covert civil war between two completely disparate work cultures. And then there is the other big question. Can Leclerc live with a car designed under Hamilton's gaze? Charles is undoubtedly the emotional and sports face of Ferrari for years. It has demonstrated fidelity, performance, and knowledge of the environment. But in this new context, its role becomes more fragile. If the 2026 car adapts more to the Lewis style, will you have Leclerc to reinvent yourself too? Or are we facing a potential internal balance rupture? This leaves us at a perfect point. Do you think Ferrari has done well to give so much space to Hamilton in such a short time? Are we facing a necessary revolution or a betrayal of the historical values of the rampante cavallino? Leave your opinion in the comments.